So my daughter said to me the other day, I really miss your dramatic lighting in the studio. And I said, okay, well, I want to try it with dramatic lighting with the GVMs and see if I can do this. So I did get grids for both of my, well, I borrowed them from other, but I have grids for the big one and the little one. And I think, a grid or a barn door for the little 650, or the 60, sorry. I don't know the names of these lights, I apologize. But wait, I just shot a whole shoot with this. I want to see where my battery, I still have a quarter power left on the battery in this. And I barely shut this off between her changing and so forth. So the battery lasted a really long time on this. And I was at, mid to full power, back and forth. So that was actually pretty good. And I have the 300C back here. Let me just see here. It's the GVM SD300C Pro. You guys probably know how much I love these lights already. But I really, after this shoot, being able to do what I love to do, which is dramatic lighting in studio, and control the light, it's pretty impressive. So, that was my biggest worry, because I can control strobe without a problem. It's like nothing for me. And I have the right modifiers to do that for the Pro Photo gear. But for this, I'm just using 2 grids. Now, I used the regular reflector on the 300C, which is this one. But I don't have a grid for this. I used to have grids for these. I just don't know where they are. So I'm going to get some grids, and because I think I would be able to control this a little bit better with a grid on it. These, they work fine. They're generic grids that I use on different lights. I just threw them on these modifiers. They worked. And I think a barn, it's noisy. I think a barn door for the 60 would be great. But this lighting setup, so the 650, 650B is in the larger reflector or larger softbox with a grid. The 300B is with the smaller softbox and a grid. This I just used the regular reflector because that's all I have. I don't think they have anything available yet. I know it's coming out, but I don't think it's available to buy yet. And then the regular reflector for the 300C, and I used color on that. This was a fun shoot. Like, this was a very, very enlightening shoot with these GVMs. Like, I've said I love them because I've been shooting them through the big scrim and so forth and just blasting light everywhere. But this was controlled lighting, this shoot. So you're really gonna be able to see what these things can do just with a few inexpensive modifiers. These really, I think the GVM modifiers will be just as good. I actually want to reach out to them to get some GVM modifiers because I want to try them and show them on here. But as far as these GVM lights and being able to control during a shoot and having a dramatic kind of shoot, absolutely, positively, they're fantastic. So the camera settings are ISO 200. I shot at f3.2, 3.4, somewhere around there, 2/50th of a second, and wow, that's pretty good settings. I'm happy with it. I think maybe the 1200 will take me to a happier place, but I'm kind of happy with what I got out of this shoot. So let's take a look at the video. I'll stop talking and let's see what these GVM lights did. Just, again, so impressed with the quality of light coming from these, everything from the 60 to the 650, just absolutely amazing. And I love the power. I very rarely had any of them up to full power, which is fantastic. So anyway, let's get to the video.
I really want to start by saying I'm showing a lot of these GVM Pro shoots because I'm using them a lot more than I thought I was going to. Now, I had every plan on shooting strobe in this shoot today, but I found a grid that fit that smaller softbox, so I thought, I'm going to try this moody, dramatic lighting with the GVM Pro lights, and I am so happy I did. I do need that grid for that reflector for the 300C in the back there because I just have a regular reflector on it, and I'm kind of hiding it behind the V-flat a little bit. But I did get some flare every once in a while, and flare on that Voigtlander 50mm lens is like nothing. So that being said, now you see the right side over here there that's just gone. It just falls into the backdrop. I'm going to throw the 60 up. This thing is battery powered, but I kept it probably at half power most of the time. And I did shut it off in between, like when she was changing a couple times, but the rest of the time I left it on. And I still had quarter power left at the end of this shoot. And this shoot was probably about an hour and 15 minutes long. So I'm actually pretty damn impressed with the battery power in that thing. Now, a 60-watt light, I know a lot of people use 60-watt lights as their key light, their main light for stills, and I can't do it because my ISO has to be too high. And I was thinking after I did this shoot, I was driving home, and the Rotolight, whatever they are, the bigger ones, I was just thinking, oh my God, the cost of this shoot with those lights, with 4 of those lights, would be, $6,000 to $8,000 versus this, and these are much less, but they're so good. I mean, I think $600-700 range for the 650, $300 or $400 range for the 300s, and I think it's like $500 for the C. But their soft boxes, which are they look really well made, are probably $100, or $120. That's really inexpensive. Now, I brought a stylist in really quick because she had the top of her hair, really flattened to her head. And I just wanted a little bit of a messy look and some height and some volume to it. So I just grabbed a stylist from next door and said, come do this for me. It's so nice to have that right next door. She did a decent job, but I really wanted it a little bit bigger, a little bit messier. So the stylist did a nice job with it. Now, these are dark and moody, and I wanted them that way. And I did these in Lightroom. Her skin is really, really good. So no major retouching had to be done with her skin because her skin is so flawless, which is really a big help. And using that Voigtlander 50 APO, it's a really, really big help because that pulls out everything. The grids on these lights really controlled the lights. Remember, that's a white background behind her. So it really did control the lights extremely well. And I have the two V-flats set on the black sides to absorb the lights because I wanted that, moody look or dramatic look, if you will. Now, you'll see me making slight adjustments on these lights because the grids on them, that 1 or 2 inches actually means something. It really makes a difference. Now, the app, it does work pretty much flawlessly. Once in a while, I'll lose the connection to the light. And it's usually when I'm not using them for a while, but not during a shoot. I never lost it during a shoot. But if that happens, all you have to do is click the reset Bluetooth and then reconnect it, and it connects up and it's fine again. But I just wanted to let you know that. It's not perfect, but it's so much better than it was. And through the whole shoot, I didn't walk up to one light to adjust it, with the power or the color or anything like that. I did everything on my phone through their app, and it worked really, really well. Now, the 650, I was at full power quite a bit, but I did back it off a couple times, because it is going through a double diffused softbox with a grid. This eats a lot of power. And the 650, I'm telling you, I don't think I can go lower. I really do want to try their 1200 though. I think the 1200 is going to really make me happy. Now, I had a splash of green on the left side of her. You know what? I lost it a little bit because of all the black. It did absorb, a little bit more than I wanted it to. I would have liked to have turned that up just a little bit. Now, this one shot here is just for the cover of Taylor Swift's new album. She was listening to that. She loves it. She's a huge fan. So she wanted a copy of the photo that Taylor has on her album. We came close, but it's not perfect. Taylor's was a little bit lighter and so forth. Anyway, so the back two lights I put on 3200 Kelvin because I wanted to warm this up, but I kept the front lights on 5600. I knew the backlights would wrap around just a little bit, and the mix between the two would give me the color that I wanted, and it worked pretty well. Again, I turned that 650 way down, and I have that smaller 300 up higher and pointed down, and it is creating just a little edgy shadow. So I'm going to pull that down to fill that in. The reason I'm going over to that side, to the left side of the screen here, is because I am tethering wirelessly with the Leica and the iPad, so we can take a look at the photos as we're going. But I just turned it towards her for this one outfit, so you'll see her eyes going over there all the time. It's that what you're not supposed to do, because you'll see her eyes just keep darting over to that iPad to see how the photos look. But anyway, I dropped that 300 down just a little bit to ease the shadows just a hair, and it worked pretty well. And the 650, I maybe bumped it up just a little bit. But I'm telling you, like, these photos are easy to do. Like, I mean, with the GVM lights, this makes this kind of setup and this kind of shooting so much easier than strobe. And with this kind of power, you can actually do it without shooting at, higher ISOs like 1600 and so forth. Because I really hate that. And, when these LEDs first came out, and I've been using LEDs for a long, long time. And I used them for some professional shots, but I just couldn't use them in my regular workflow every single time because they just didn't have the power before. They actually have the power, and they have the features and the modification that you need. Like the square panel lights and the the round rotolight type of lights. You can't control them. You don't have the modifiers. These have the Bowens mount built in, and the Bowens mount soft boxes and so forth. You have enough to control light with these now. I definitely want to get more and control these a little bit more. And I really, I hate to repeat myself, but I really want to try that 1200. Because if I have a 1200 main and a 650 fill, I think I'm going to be dropping down to 64 ISO. And the light didn't bother her eyes at all throughout this whole thing, no matter what it was, unless she looked directly at it. And there was a couple times you saw her look directly at the lights and start squinting right after that. Because I kept forgetting to remind her, I'm going to turn this up, don't look. And she would just glance over it and go, ouch, because they're pretty bright. And that was more of the 650 than 300. But anyway, I highly recommend you try these if you're interested in LEDs. These, for me, are pretty damn good. And now I'm not saying like the Aperture or any other lights out there aren't as good. I'm saying that these are pretty damn affordable for what they're offering, for the power that they have. And you definitely need to look into them because they really are pretty good. This, I'm just throwing that light directly behind her to give some kind of like, just some mood to the photo, an extra feature on it. I moved the other one over to and I put on the red. I did have to remove the reflector for the shot though, because it just showed the reflector, and it was, I just didn't like the look. So after I moved it over and took a shot, I was like, I have to remove the reflector. And the blue was okay, but I like the red better. This is the red without the reflector, and it looked pretty nice. It was different. But then I pulled them to the side and really, turned them up quite a bit just to give more of a flaring kind of look. Again, I think a cheaper, less corrected lens may have given, more character to these photos, but I did get some character to them, which I was happy with. But I think, a less corrected lens would have just added a little something extra that's not shown here. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the shoot. This was a lot of fun for me. Again, I highly recommend these lights. I'm going to leave a link below. I think you save 10% if you use the link. Either way, though, whatever kind you want to get, whatever's for you, try the LEDs. If you're a little hesitant about shooting in studio with lights, these will help quite a bit, and they produce some beautiful, beautiful light for your photos. And at ISOs you can deal with, rather than look at this is great, and you're shooting at ISO 3200. Anyway, thanks for watching as always. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'll be glad to answer them.